Kara's Q is sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.
Helping you lead a healthier life. This is Kara's Cures.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Kara's Cures TV show and podcast. I'm Kara Sundlin. This is where we discuss the cutting edge of wellness with thought leaders from around the world and talking about the political tensions in America as we come a little closer to elections this fall. Certainly, tension is at an all-time high. And New York Times bestselling author Dr. Warren Farrell is a seasoned couples coach. He's actually coached thousands of couples. He's also been chosen by the Financial Times of London as one of the world's top 100 thought leaders. He's joining us to talk about his groundbreaking method to transform political conflict with your loved ones. And he also has his new book coming out, which is Rollmate to Soulmate: The 7 Secrets to Lifelong Love. So I want to welcome Dr. Farrell for being here. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to talking to you.
So certainly we live in a polarizing time where politics has become so personal, especially with dating and marriages. Apparently it's your statistics that I have are, it's actually leading to less dating and marriages with a 60% drop since the 70s. Is that true?
That's true. And the big problem is, the first job of the Rollmate to Soulmate workshop that, that led to this book was to get men and women to be able, or really couples, which gay couples as well, to be able to hear each other in a way that is that the person who's feeling a concern, like, often feels that they have to walk on eggshells and wait for just the right moment. And I have people do a caring and sharing time where they set aside time where they can, before they hear their partner's concern, which they often interpret as a criticism, they meditate into an altered state, because it's biologically natural to be defensive when somebody criticizes you, because historically, if we heard criticism, it was potentially an enemy. And the fear was that the enemy would kill us. And so it was made sense to get up our defenses. That was functional for survival. It's just dysfunctional for love. So the first thing I do is teach couples how to set aside a separate time where, before they do the natural thing, which is become defensive, they alter their natural state by meditating into a series of mindsets. Like, for example, one mindset will be the love guarantee, where they say that no matter what if I provide a safe environment for my partner to say anything that she or he wishes to in whatever way they wish to, even if it's not my way of looking at that issue, if I provide that safe environment, my partner will feel more secure. And if they feel more secure when they talk to me, they'll feel more loved by me. And if they feel more loved by me, they'll feel more loved for me. And so that becomes the starting process of that. And then I teach people how, once they are able to hear each other, how to apply that to family members who may have very different political perspectives than they have.
Yeah, so let's back up, and we got the problem, and then I do want to talk about some of the solutions, but I also want to I think that, is it wrong to say this is a newer revelation? I can remember it's lots of times when, say, I was growing up and generations before that, you might have spouses who disagree about politics. Sometimes you might have had a Republican and a Democrat in a marriage, but now half of U.S. college students who are expected to graduate in 2025, they say, are unwilling to room with someone who supported their opposing presidential candidate in 2020. So how did we get to the point we won't talk to each other if they think differently than us?
We've really come to demonize the other people from a different political party in a way that's much more dramatic than it ever has been in recent U.S. history, at least. And so it's almost like a civil war mentality. And so, and this is sad because, we're just finishing summer and people are oftentimes visiting their family at summer, and the desire in visiting family is to become closer and more loving toward each other. But you hear somebody in your family is supporting Trump, and somebody in your family is supporting somebody to the left of Kamala Harris, and they both see each other as the enemy. And so, what I work with couples to do that have these different political opinions is to instead of seeing them as the enemy, is to first make a deal with them that they'll both hear each other out and they'll both appreciate each other first. So you start out saying, so let's say it's you and I talking, and we're family members, and one of us is, we're in different political perspectives. The first thing that I do is appreciate you. So I mean, even in just sort of a quick glance of you, I can see that you're warm. I can see that you're open. I can see that you're inquisitive. And so I would say something like that to you. And so your defenses begin to minimize because you see that I see you as a person who is a good human being. And then my next step is to make sure that after I appreciate you very specifically, is to make sure that I let you know that the fact that we differ also means that you care. Your opinions are strong, and therefore I know that you care. I also see that you're not apathetic. And what a democracy is really built on is somebody who cares, who's not apathetic, not people who are apathetic. And so I'm immediately acknowledging that you are somebody who really is contributing in a positive way to a democracy, even if our outcomes in the beliefs are very different. And then I ask people to see the virtue. Let's say one of us is very feminist in orientation, and the other one is feels that feminism has gone way too far. So if I'm the person that feels that feminism has gone way too far, and you're the person who's a feminist, I might say to you, so the virtue that I see in what you're doing is that you want women to be empowered. You want women to not be victims. You want women to be able to play in sports. You want women to be able to do what they wish to do, what inside of them they know that they can do, and not to be restricted and told, no, you're a girl who's going to become a woman and you're just going to be a homemaker. And that was really and I want you to be able to play in team sports. I want you to learn how to lose through team sports and win. And so so now I'm sharing with you the virtues I see in feminism before I maybe articulate ultimately what I see as some of the vices of feminism gone too far and becoming anti-male or whatever else you think it has become in recent years, or victim oriented. And so then once I do that for you, the deal that we make as family members is to hear the opposite of that. That is, meaning once I hear you, you also hear me. However, if you have somebody in your family that's so oriented toward one party or the other, and they aren't willing to do that back for you, you have what I call alone power, is the ability to do that alone with your family members, so that they see that they have been heard by you, and that therefore they can talk without you seeing them as being the devil.
Yeah. So basically, let's just, for our viewers, kind of repeat what you just said. I know you've counseled thousands of folks who might have the luxury of sitting with you, but it starts with really seeing someone, showing some appreciation. And the reason we're talking about this is more and more people, you say, are actually getting divorced over politics than you've ever seen before.
Yes, and that's just part of the situation, meaning that the divorce over the politics is the divorce over not being heard, not being seen by your partner. And people sometimes say, well, just avoid politics and religion. And that is an option. But it's also sad because politics and religion also reflect some of our deeper values. And if you love somebody in your family, you want to be able to see and feel their deeper values, and you want to be able to see the virtue that they worked from, even if that virtue train went too far and became a vice. Every virtue taken to its extreme becomes a vice, and we have a lot of people taking things to the extreme these days. So we oftentimes fight with somebody that's at an extreme for us, as opposed to starting by letting them know that we see the virtue from which we see the original virtue in that.
So how much of it is social media and cancel culture and just the way the world is right now that we won't tolerate listening to someone who thinks something different than us?
Yes, I mean, a lot of it is that the algorithm of social media, obviously, when I do a podcast like this, it appears on social media. And then other people who like that podcast, they get more of the same. If they don't like it, they get less of me. And so, and that is really, that helps to close the mind, and everything you see is reinforcing your bias. And that's deeply sad. And so one of the things that it's really important to do, yes, read the New York Times, but also read the Epoch Times. So whatever you read something that's different from that. You need to select that in order for your algorithm to be responsive to your multiplicity of perspectives.
Yeah. I mean, we just literally as a family had this happening where my mother-in-law, who's pretty good for 83, but we realized she was like some of the stuff, there's so much disinformation on both sides out there on social media. So we were helping her unfollow these things she had unwittingly followed, thinking they were news sources. And so that's a problem too, right? That we're not always sitting down and looking at verified sources. I'm proud to say, as a local news anchor, we often score local news scores as some of the least biased, and we try to just give information. But if you're not doing that and you're getting a lot of news from your phone, you might just be hearing what you want to hear, and in worst case scenario, you also might be hearing a lot of things that are not true.
Yes, I'm afraid that is accurate, and we see this, with, and you pointed out before, like here in universities, we have a really major problem. When I went to university, I'm 81, and when I went to college, the free speech movement was a left-wing type of movement. And there was Joseph McCarthy, who was saying, don't ever look at anything, say anything positive about communists, or you'll be a communist. And so things were reversed. Now you go to college, and the cancel culture is very deeply embedded in, if anybody is politically conservative, they should be canceled from the culture and not on campus. And that's the opposite of what a university should be. A university should be nourishing every political perspective, and saying our job is to know the process of deciding which of these perspectives are fact-based, which of the facts are value-based, and what that every fact, that people often talk about things like I speak truth to power. Well, that's such a self-righteous stance. Nobody has the truth. Many people have perspectives on the truth, and we need to hear everybody's perspective on the truth, rather than the left calling themselves progressive. That's a self-righteous statement, which basically suggests that I'm progressive and you're regressive. The right calls themselves patriotic. That's a self-righteous statement, suggesting that I'm patriotic, and if you disagree with me, you're not patriotic. And so universities need to be the place where everybody can see all these perspectives. That's what an education is about. And it's deeply sad that the place in our life where we should be open to discovering many different perspectives is engaging in things like cancel culture or trigger warnings or safe havens. And that's making people more fragile and less prepared to be resilient and being able to handle the world in its multiple dimensions.
Yeah. So let's do some free therapy here. The book obviously is called Role Mate to Soulmate, and I know you have 7 steps that we can really dig into. So the 7 Secrets to Lifelong Love by Dr. Warren Farrell, excuse me. So Warren, tell me, if you're sitting there and let's say you're arguing with a loved one, it might be your spouse or it might be someone like an in-law, and we used to say don't talk about politics and religion, but sometimes things are getting passionate. Maybe you're at home, you're watching both conventions, something is said, whatever. But so how do we, what's step 1 when you see someone getting heated? Maybe you're not even the one getting heated, but you see someone boiling and there's about to be an argument, or you've stepped into an argument. How do we start to diffuse it? What would be step 1?
The first step in hearing anyone or leaving anybody in your life feeling seen is that step of appreciating. So I'll give you an example. Most people know how to appreciate somebody, but let's say we're at Thanksgiving and somebody says, and I say my wife's a good cook, and she feels a little bit seen by that. But if I say, sweetie, how did you cook the turkey in such a way as to get it very crisp, the skin so crisp? I'm showing curiosity, and I'm letting her see that I see something more than just being a good cook. I actually saw that the skin on that turkey was crisp. And then I go deeper, and I go, and I noticed you got the dressing so moist. How do you both, that which is just delicious. Oftentimes there's dried out dressing that you get at restaurants. Now she feels seen, that she's mastered both getting the skin crisp and that dressing moist. And then I say, the spicing also seemed very good. And then I try to guess at what the spices might be. Like, was that parsley or sage or rosemary or thyme or some other Simon and Garfunkel spice that you had in there? And so the deeper I go, and so what I train my couples to do is to be specific in their appreciation at least 7 levels. So that allows, and whether you do that in a political sense, like I was mentioning before, appreciating that you see the human being and you see that human being very specifically. So specific appreciations is the first secret to enroll mate to soulmate. The second secret is being able to handle personal criticism without becoming defensive. And because it's biologically unnatural, as I mentioned before, to do that.
So how do we do that? You feel yourself feeling very worn, like, I can't believe they just, said that to me. I'm feeling so angry right now. And we have to be able to handle personal criticism, which can be quite sharp. How do we do that? What do we do so we don't continue the flying off the handle?
The first thing I ask couples to do is to do a caring and sharing time every single week.
Okay.
And that caring and sharing time means that before they hear their partner's criticism or concern, they meditate into an altered state. And that first part of that altered state is being able to say that love guarantee that I mentioned before. And I have every couple in my workshop sit opposite each other and answer this question. They say, if your partner is about to be killed, let's say in a drown or in a car accident, and you knew with 100% certainty that you could save his or her life, would you? But you'd have a 50% chance of risking your own life. Would you do it? Not do it? Or you're uncertain? And I have them eliminate the consideration of children. And so about 90% of the men say that they would have take a 50% chance of losing their own life to save their partner's life. About 80% of the women say the same thing. So then their first meditation before they hear their partner's concern is to say, well, if I'll die for you, the least I can do is listen to you. And that puts listening to your partner's different perspective in a very different position. And so I have them go through 6 mindsets like that before they hear their partner's criticism. Once they learn how to do that type of thing in real life with their partner, I then teach them how to modify that to do that with somebody in their family on the political perspective, like I did a few minutes ago. And then I have them do the same thing to modify it even further with their colleagues. You obviously can't do a love guarantee with your colleagues, but you can do a respect guarantee. If you have a colleague at work that has a very strong political opinion and everybody's sort of shying away from him or her because they have such an extreme position, that person doesn't feel heard by anybody. And if you're the person to hear them, even if you disagree with them, and give them a safe space, like I mentioned before, that person will increase their respect for you, and therefore will be you'll be more easily able to work with each other. And that person is probably, at their extreme, a little bit psychologically off base. And the fact that somebody is able to not focus on that psychologically off base part of them, but just hear that, then that frees them to be more comfortable with you in other aspects of your work life.
Okay. I want to dig in about, well, first of all, that someone could be really extreme. They might be psychologically off base. They might be a little rigid, and there might be a reason for that. We are going to just take one moment and hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back for this conversation. Stay with us, Doctor.
Struggling with gambling? Wheeler Health's Better Choice program offers personalized support and treatment to help you regain control. Visit wheelerhealth.org to learn more and take the first step towards recovery today.
All right, we're back now with Dr. Warren Farrell, who is an expert in relationships. And From Role-Mate to Soulmate is his new book. You might have seen him many times with Oprah, Barbara Walters, many others. You've been counseling couples forever. I love that you're putting in a book because people are so busy. They're probably thinking, that's one more thing I can't do is go to couples counseling. But let me bring it back to something hopeful. If you really are disagreeing with your partner on fundamental things like reproductive rights or whether you believe in certain things at all, and they don't, can you still have a loving, great relationship even if some core values are very different?
There's three answers to that question. Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
So one of the things you do, what I call the soulmate wisdoms, is recognizing that we often choose people who in our life that are very different from us because they complement us and give us something that we don't have. So you might have somebody who's very an engineer or a lawyer who's very and very successful person who is who's a rock. But he, and then they meet somebody who's a yoga person who's very sort of very spiritual in orientation, and they see a part of their life that they just haven't really enjoyed themselves, and they're attracted to this person. And conversely, the person who's very spiritual and yoga oriented may not be able to make a living, and she sees in herself or himself, a sort of rock in that lawyer and so on. And so, but then as they get together and they start loving each other, they often find that they start being critical of the very things to which they are attracted.
Yeah.
So one of my 11 soulmate wisdoms is, before you criticize your partner, look in the mirror. See what is there about you that was attracted to this person? What did you need that they offered you? And so when you hear their perspective, their way of looking at the world, it may disagree with yours, but it also may, if that person feels heard, even if you disagree with them, and seen and valued for what they really for what they do bring to the world, oftentimes they can be very compatible with each other, knowing that they complement each other, and that listening to each other's perspectives rather than criticizing them for the perspective that they have can leave them both having perspectives that work together. My wife and I are opposites attract. And if it wasn't for this Role-Mate to Soulmate workshop, we would not be together. But as a result of being able to hear each other, and every week we have this caring and sharing time on the calendar, and most weeks we use it, and it leaves us just feeling so seen by the other person, even when we disagree with what brings them to that perspective.
It reminds me of another interview that I did about healthy marriages with the group Marriage 365. And similar, they said, now, for all of us who are running around with kids and we're spending so much time just worrying about how to get from A to B and what needs to get done, that you might not always have enough time for caring and sharing. So they suggested that also, so whatever you're going to do with this, maybe do both, but a marital business meeting where you kind of lay out the week, get all that stuff, so at least you can be caring to each other. So you're both saying the same thing, and that we need to set aside some time to actually, the intention would be, I'm just here to see you and listen to you. I'm here to do the minutia also, so we don't have to do that every single day. And if we don't do that, we kind of don't leave room in our life for a healthy relationship, or there can be too much criticism.
Absolutely. And the key issue here is that you set aside this caring and sharing time, and once you know that you have a method for feeling completely heard with your partner, not becoming defensive, then I have the couple set up a criticism-free zone for the rest of the week. Or I'm sorry, a conflict-free zone for the rest of the week. So a criticism may occur, but the normal response to a criticism is to defend yourself, and then everything starts escalating. So instead, once you know that you can be completely heard by your partner, you have the option to visualize. I have two things here. My partner just criticized me, so I can respond to the criticism, and most likely everything will escalate. Or I can wait to the caring and sharing time, bring this up, And with 100% certainty, I'll be really heard and seen by my partner. What do I want? An escalated argument, or do I want to be heard and seen by my partner? So almost everybody says, once they visualize that difference, it's an obvious choice. But then there's more subtleties than that. I then ask people to do journaling. And the first stage of journaling is to write down what I call the self-righteous stage, which is why I'm 100% right and why my partner's 100% wrong.
Okay.
And then the second stage is one or two things that my partner might have as a reasonable point. And the third stage is what's my partner's perspective. And my fourth stage is let me write his entire argument from my partner's perspective. And by the time you finish journaling that, you may see things from your partner's perspective without taking it to the caring and sharing time. And so, but at the end of the week, you take the thing that's bugging you the most, and you bring only that one thing up. It's important to not flood the caring and sharing time with a whole bunch of complaints, but just one concern.
One complaint at a time.
Yes. And I find that once people know that they have a time for my loved one to feel that I know with 100% certainty, my partner will work at it until she sees or he sees my perspective, even if they disagree with that perspective, then that gives you an internal security that helps take you through that conflict-free zone during the week.
Well, we're down to our final 2 minutes, so I do want to leave people with hope. Number one, I know that the divorce rates are way up. Your research is showing sometimes it is because of politics, but that it doesn't have to be. We can actually, someone could be really passionate about Kamala Harris, someone could be really passionate about Donald Trump, and they can be married and have a completely happy marriage if they do things right.
Yeah, and doing things right means that you are really hearing, I feel that Donald Trump is special because he's representing all the people that that haven't been represented for X number of years. And I feel that Kamala Harris is really wonderful because she has, she gives me hope, she gives me joy, she gives me ways of, feeling that she values things that I care about, like climate change and so on. And so you both say, all right, we both see the values of both of them differently. But there's no reason that has to interfere with how we raise our children, which is to keep open-minded to both. And in fact, the fact that one of us thinks one way and the other thinks the other way means we're going to be introducing our children to multiple perspectives rather than just having an ideology that makes them feel rigid. And so that's an example of the type of gift that differences can gift us with as a couple and as a family. That otherwise we wouldn't have if we all had the exact same thinking.
Dr. Farrell, we're going to leave it there for time, but thank you. The book is called Rollmate to Soulmate, and there it is on the screen right now. You can find it wherever books are sold. It's coming out soon. Dr. Farrell, thank you for your time, and for all of you at home, thank you for watching Kara's Cures. Have a great day, and be well.
Kara's Cures, sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.